Okay, now, as we said in the beginning, we're talking about, people that are coming to me asking me to do their logo. Well, guess what? Now you're ready to do a logo. Well, hello, everybody. My name is Camille Jamerson. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the Camille Company. I own a business management consulting firm where I specialize in consulting strategy, communications, and branding with small businesses, nonprofits, churches, and political campaigns. Churches come to me often and say, "Hey, Camille, help, we need a logo for our ministry." And I say, "Okay, well, what's your ministry's mission and vision?" And then I kind of get, and that is an indicator that they're really not ready for a logo. Why? Because a logo is just a visual part of your brand. You need to understand your brand in totality before you build the visual elements for it. So there are three things that we're going to cover today. The first is defining your brand. The second is learning how to craft your brand message. And the third is then how to build your visual brand for your ministry or church. Now, why do you as a church or a ministry need a brand? Well, it's simple. A strong brand helps to clarify your message, and it identifies your church's culture, your mission, both internally and externally. Another thing that a strong brand can do is help to build trust in your ministry. When people see that your church's branding aligns with its actions and with its message, it kind of reinforces your credibility and reliability. Another thing that your church brand can do is, in today's digital age, your church likely comes across a lot of people with a lot of choices, and your brand can help your ministry stand out as the church for them. Springfield Baptist Church is a historic church. It's been around for over 100 years. So when you see their ministry online and in their branding and in their content, it's very traditional and very comfortable for their older population. However, Springfield has to be very intentional about smooshing their brand a little bit, so it's also a lure for their younger population. On the contrast, a new ministry such as Kingdom Church Impact Ministries, they've been around maybe about 5 years or so, and their focus is more community driven. Why? Because they are introducing themselves to the community as a new ministry. So their brand is very outward focused, and it's focused on building disciples and church growth. So Kingdom Church Impact Ministries, you'll find them moving and shaking always in the community, and their brand is right there ahead of them. So what are some of the steps to help you identify what your brand actually is? The first thing that I highly recommend that you do is identify your core values and your mission. You need to start by really figuring out what your church stands for, what its core beliefs are, and what its specific mission is. And this is the foundation that's going to guide you in all of your subsequent branding efforts. Now, how do you figure out your mission statement and your vision and kind of what your core values are as a ministry? One tool that I highly recommend is really figuring out who your audience is. I know as a church or a ministry, you want to reach everybody that you believe needs what you have, but however, you can't be there for everybody and be the end all be all for every single person. You got to hone in on the person that you are targeting. So you got to understand your audience. You got to know your demographic, and you need to understand the psychology behind the characteristics of the person that you're trying to reach. How can you figure that out? One creative way is to do a survey of the members that you already have. So you want to ask them things such as, okay, how did you find our ministry? And what really led you to coming? Were you seeking a ministry before you were coming, or you kind of just stumbled up on us? What was your first impression of our ministry when you heard about it? And then once you came in the door, what did you think about what you saw? What about our ministry encouraged you to come back and to take a part in some of the program that we had to offer? The reason that those types of things are important is because these people are proven that they really are into you and your brand. So why not use them as a catalyst or a tool to reach other members just like them? Another tool that you could use is really understanding what makes your ministry unique. In corporate America, we call this your unique selling point. So what's your differentiator? Like, this could be your style of worship. It could be community programs that you offer. It could be your approach to teaching. Highlighting these differences in your brand and while creating your values and your mission can help you stand out and create a brand that really represents what your ministry is all about. An example is Springfield Baptist Church, which we mentioned earlier. This church is kind of a mix of the old and the new. As I said, this was founded way back in the 1800s. So their worship services have sort of a historical and traditional bend. And its structure, its ministry style, all gives you that old home feeling. But they understand that in order to preserve and to grow that ministry, they're going to have to be really creative and inclusive of their younger generation and membership. So how do they do that? They use their brand to come up with creative fellowship ideas for Gen Z. They have a whole ministry designed just for them called The Refuge. They have a young adult department called Regen. So they have this distinctive style of ministries to fit those particular age groups. And those types of things can stand out as a differentiator when you are doing marketing efforts to reach out to people who may want to be a part of your ministry. Why? Because if they have children, to know that there is a special place for their children to come and worship could make all the difference as to why that family would choose to worship at your church home. So now it's time to craft your church's brand messaging. And a way to do that is to create a tagline, which is a compact statement that really encapsulates what your church is all about. Some of my favorite taglines for churches are Church on the Move, which is introducing people to the real Jesus. See, simple, impactful, reflective. Elevation Church, see what God can do through you. Word of Faith Family Worship Cathedral, experience God, grow together, change lives. Those taglines give you an idea as to what their ministry is all about and what the ministry will give you. Another great example of integrating your tagline into your messaging is Kingdom Church Impact Ministries. We mentioned them earlier. They're a new ministry, and so it's really important that they drive their brand messaging home because they are introducing themselves to the community. Their tagline is, we jumpstart, we elevate, we impact. And you will see this tagline everywhere. They use it on their website, they use it on their events. This church is about jumpstarting me, elevating me, and impacting me and my family. That's the importance of crafting a church's brand message and creating a tagline that's a bite-sized statement that can quickly let someone know what your church is all about and where they fit into that ministry. When crafting your brand messaging, another thing to consider is the tone of voice. What that means is you decide what your communication will sound like, even if it's written. Will it be formal? Will it be conversational? Will it be friendly? Are you looking to be more inspirational? The reason that this is important is because you want your tone to be consistent across the board. You also want it to be consistent with what your core values are and what your mission is. If your church is really formal and traditional, then your messaging should emulate that. If your church is really more casual and laid back, then a more conversational tone would be better when you are posting on social media or when you are doing videos. You want to keep that in mind. So make sure that your tone of voice is articulated, that is clear across the board. So regardless of who is speaking on behalf of your ministry, everybody's kind of talking the same language in the same way. Storytelling is another impactful way to craft your brand's message. How do you do that? You want to share stories that kind of illustrate your church's impact and what your church's core values are. This could be in the form of sharing testimonials with members of your church, or you can show community work highlights. If you're out and about in the community and doing things that people would be interested in, sharing some of those stories. Or it could be more personal stories from members, showing how their involvement with your church or your ministry has improved their life or the lives of their family. Messaging has a very powerful way of connecting with people who are not a part of your ministry yet. Hopefully something that someone says in their testimony or in their personal service or even while out in the community can connect with that individual in such a way that they think, hey, I want to be a part of that, or that sounds just like me, or I need that too. So you're using stories as a way to market what your church has to offer and what it can do for someone who wants to become a part. So use storytelling in a very authentic way to reach people who may not be a part of your ministry now, but need a little nudge or a testimony or something to encourage them to give your ministry a try. A great example of how this is done is Motor City Church. If you check out their Instagram page, on their stories, they interview members right at the end of service to get an idea of what that ministry experience meant to them. So you can get a first-hand account of what being in their services are all about. Someone seeing that or watching that can get an idea of what actually happened in that sanctuary without even being there. So you're using the power of storytelling to give people an idea of what your worship experience is all about. Another example that you could use is Grace Church. Grace Church uses their blog in the same way. They write very compelling stories using biblical examples, and then they tie those biblical examples down to a place that people can just grasp it in their everyday life. And so they use the power of storytelling and conveying truths to really reach an audience they may not have otherwise saw. So you can use the power of blogging, you can use videos, you can use posts. There are a lot of ways to tell a story, but the most important thing is to make sure that your stories are authentic, that they are at the core of who you are as a ministry. And as my dad used to say, what flows from the heart goes to the heart. So remember to keep that in mind when you're reaching out to people using stories. Okay, now, as we said in the beginning, we're talking about, people that are coming to me asking me to do their logo. Well, guess what? Now you're ready to do a logo. After you've done all of that pre-work, now we're in a place where we can start building your ministry's visual brand. And your visual brand includes things such as your logo design. And your logo should really reflect what your church's spirit and mission is. That's why it's important to do that first, right? It doesn't have to be elaborate. Sometimes simple is best. And don't forget that you can always change your branding over time. So don't feel like you're married to it forever. So that's the first thing, your logo design. The second thing is to understand what your color scheme is going to be and your typography. Why? Because you want to choose colors and fonts that also reflect the tone and feel and personality of your ministry. If your ministry is more laid back and subdued, you probably don't want to pick red as your color because red is a fire energy type color. So you want to choose maybe 2 or 3 main colors and then support them with secondary colors, and then choose a font that really looks and feels like what your ministry is all about. And that's going to take some trial and error, but you want to make certain that everything is married to what your core values and mission and purpose is. Thus why it's important to do that first. The last part of your visual brand is kind of your imagery, right? You want to use photos and graphics that kind of emulate what your community looks like. You want to make sure that they are high quality though, and that they reflect diversity and inclusivity. A church that does that in a really big way is Generation Church in Moreno Valley, California. They have a logo, and if you go on their website, you'll see it, but it plays a really small part in their overall ministry visual brand. They use their colors and their photographs to really promote what their brand is all about. Their community is very diverse. There are African Americans, there are Caucasians, and they're in a very Hispanic dominated population. So you will see people of all colors and creeds in their branding. They're very intentional about being inclusive. So if you're someone on the outside looking in, you will see people that are dressed really laid back with ripped jeans and t-shirts. You'll see people that look just like you, people of color, or it could be people that are Caucasian. You'll see people of all ages as well, and they're very intentional about including that in their brand because they're very family oriented and they want people to be able to go on their page and see themselves and what they have to offer. So whether you are with children or without, wearing ripped jeans, you can see yourself in the visual brand of their ministry, and that's what the visual elements of your brand are all about. Well, hey, I hope this gave you an idea as to how to start to build a compelling brand for your church and your ministry. If you go back and take a peek at our blog, you'll see all of the things I shared with you. Plus, I also give you ideas as to how to implement your brand into your ministry. So you definitely want to check that out. So I want to make certain that I take a minute to thank Poster My Wall for entrusting me with their brand and giving me the opportunity to share with you such important information to compel your ministry to the next level. Poster My Wall is amazing at giving small businesses the tools that they need to produce great marketing. It's cost effective, it's such an easy to use platform, and includes designs for video templates, posts, social media publishing, email marketing, content calendars. So you can learn more about how to amplify your church's marketing at postermywall.com. Thanks, Poster My Wall, for giving me this opportunity. As always, it's been a blast. I'll see you guys soon.